Okay, so we are being played big time. Let's imagine a giant chessboard laid out across the world, and on one side we have the hidden controllers, let's call them the grandmasters, and on the other side we've got us, just normal people, you know, regular day-to-day folk. And in the game, the pawns are pushed forward first. And those pawns, well, that's me and you and the general public. And then we have knights, who are the agitators, the influencers, the celebrities who come in at strange angles. We've got bishops that are the ideology, belief systems, religions, all moving across the board diagonally and shaping how we interpret the world. And then you've got the rooks, which are corporations and institutions, straight-lined power walls that shape the whole board. But what about the kings and queens? Well, they're not the politicians that we see on TV, because they're just stage actors. The real monarchs of this board game, they never move into danger. They just sit back, pulling the strings and watching us fight it out. And the grandmasters, well, they know this game pretty well. They are masters, after all. And no matter which way we move, the game seems to always end the same way. And that's checkmate. Because we're not actually playing the game. We're the ones that's being played. So what about the politicians? Well, like I say, they're not the grandmasters or the controllers. They're actually just pieces of the board game too. Your Keir Starmers, your Trumps, your Bidens, Macron, Trudeau, whoever. They're all just actors on the same stage. They wear different colours, but it's all the same board. Every move is engineered to lead us towards the same outcome. And generally, that's more control. The usual game is being played out of problem, reaction, solution. It's always being played out. So we have, with problem, reaction, solution, problem is the migration as one. That is a problem. Climate change is another. Pandemics. Economic chaos. So a reaction from that would be, in the general public, fear, division, outrage, polarisation. So what would the solution be? Well, it's what they've all got planned out for us, which is surveillance, digital ID, programmable money, global governance. So in reality, it doesn't matter if you move left or right, shout for borders or for diversity, demand order or compassion. The end position is already set. Checkmate. Whatever people say, the New World Order isn't a conspiracy theory. It's clearly a project of centralisation. So, the national borders blur, and this is worldwide, not just the UK. Our sovereignty weakens and everything collapses into one global chessboard. And why is it being played out this way? because chaos creates compliance. Division stops unity. And when people feel unsafe, they will beg for the very chains that keep them captive. Digital ID isn't really about migration, even though it's all over the front pages at the moment. CBDCs aren't really about fraud. And climate scoring isn't really about saving the planet. They're all about the same thing: building the infrastructure of total control. Unfortunately, we humans are pretty predictable, and the controllers know this. We fall out like kids in a playground. Who's more awake? Who's controlled opposition? Whose flag you fly? Who really knows the truth? You know, the human psyche is always being used against itself. And every time we argue, every time we fracture the controllers, well, they're just laughing at us. If we look around right now in the UK, there are St. George's flags pretty much everywhere. You know, they're painted on roundabouts, hanging from windows. It's viral all over social media. And I've got no problem at all in pride of our country. I've no problem in the flag or anything like that at all. I do have a problem if it's being used as a weapon of anger or of hate. There could be a couple of things at play here that I've tried to consider. There could be a recruitment energy being pushed forward, you know, conditioning the next generation to rally around the flag. So if wall calls, they're up for the fight. Because remember, if you cast your mind back just to the general election not too long ago, the Tories were talking about conscription for the youngsters. Recently, there was a headline in the Daily Mail saying that most people wouldn't fight for the country. So there seems to be something at play there. It certainly would be an ideal way to engineer the youth anyway, to fight for the flag, to become patriotic. There's nothing wrong with patriotism, but there is an issue if they're being socially directed to fight generally for corporate greed. If you look at war, it's normally for greed. It's not, and there's no winners in war. So another option could be a clear game of controlled chaos. You know, because sadly, and it is sad, that flags do inflame division. Seeing it all over social media now. You know, it should never be the case, but we are witnessing it. You know, the far left and the far right. It's that division, and it brings anger. And again, the controllers will just be wetting themselves. And what we're seeing at the moment is a general population getting pretty pissed off with the migrant situation, and it's understandable. This is orchestrated, not just in the UK, it's everywhere. Young men being brought in, you know, and they're in the hotels. We don't see any ladies, we don't see any children. So it's going to bring fear, it's going to bring anger, it's going to bring tension, you know, especially when we're seeing our own homeless struggling away, and our veterans, etc., etc. Of course. But it's designed to do so, to bring that tension, to bring that anger, to bring that frustration. And then, you know, we're going to have the inevitable, as I mentioned, the right and the left situation. And when those clashes happen, well, that's just going to bring more fear into the population. So that population that watches the BBC or picks up the Daily Mail or the Sun or something, You know, they're just going to see fear, and something needs to be done about it. And the solution, well, it's already there, isn't it? Don't think that our wonderful government just, you know, parked 30 odd billion pounds worth of track and trace software back in the pandemic period. That is waiting. So that solution will be rolled out, wouldn't it? We need digital ID to restore order. Well, I'm not being funny, but I've lived in the UK all my life. They pretty much know who I am and what I'm up to, and they can find me if they want to. But what they'll be saying is, we don't know who these people are that's come in. So your general population are going to go, well, you need to sort this out, Mr. Government, don't you? What's the solution? We need digital ID. So like I say, we're seeing the politicians pushing this option through the mainstream press now, Starmer and co. Blair's been wanting it since the 90s, some kind of identification, and he's set to make a fortune from this, guaranteed, as is Sunak. They're all in it. And you know what? It's not just the mainstream either. It's not just the digital ID that's a problem now because of the way we're being played. The Truther movement itself is full of psyops. The same patterns are playing out. I'm more awake than you. You know, that one's a shill. You know, endless accusations, finger pointing. You've got factions fighting each other harder than they fight the system. It's just simple divide and rule, and we're falling for it. Like children in the playground, the real players continue to move the pieces into that checkmate position. I think that most of the population believe the controllers of this place are the politicians. You know, those clumsy prime ministers and senile presidents. But they're just playing their part, as I said, on the big stage. They're just actors. The real architects of our world fully understand that archetypes, such as flags, rituals, symbols, tied in with our pride, ego, and our tribalism, will push the narrative further. They use our emotions. Look how they did it during COVID. They go for the emotions and fear. We should never, ever underestimate the controllers. They've been doing this for a very long time, and they're way ahead of us. So, if this game keeps playing out the way they want, it's very likely we're going to have civil unrest. So that'll be your left versus right. Chaos in the streets. It's starting. It's brewing. And digital ID will be sold as the solution. You know, that patriotic energy channeled into the wrong areas, channeled into conflict, anger, fear. So that becomes a potential recruitment poster for any potential war. That's a worry as well. It could be both of them. You know, the unrest justifies the ID at home. War cements the loyalty abroad. So, double checkmate. So, once again, it's us, pawns, that are sacrificed first. So what do? Well, Trying to out-argue everyone else on social media certainly isn't going to make a difference. What we do need to do is to see the game board that they've placed us on. So we need to recognise and name the pattern that's playing out. And once you see divide and rule, it loses some of its power. We need to refuse the ego trap. You know, I am more awake than you. We're no better than any other. We're all just trying to find our way. We should question how quickly people are moved into areas. You know, how quickly events happen, such as the speed of this flag flying. You know, like I say, I have nothing against flag flying. I think it's a great thing. But what I question is it really about unity? Or is it bait? And that's important to stand back and just check that out. And we must absolutely say no to nonsense stuff coming from governments such as the digital ID. It's a big fat no to digital ID, no matter what the excuse. Digital ID tied into people's bank accounts and a social crediting score will destroy lives. And if it comes in, it's going to be very difficult to remove. Very difficult. And our kids and our grandchildren are the ones that's going to suffer. We must resist this with absolutely everything. And as hard as this is, because they are certainly pushing fear and anger hard into the communities, we, instead of reacting, need to build instead. They want us fighting, when actually creation is the real rebellion. Unity is what's required. Remember, these controllers know our psyche better than we do. They know what triggers us, and they will use our emotions against us. And as I've said, they've been playing this game forever. But they can only win if we agree to stay on the game board, because the moment we step back and see the game for what it is, and we refuse to play by their rules, then the chessboard collapses. We can only be pawns in this game if we choose to be. Mass non-compliance is required. Say no to digital ID.